What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So there's a lot of excitement right now online around Metroid Dread with the awesome E3 reveal and the special edition that keeps selling out. But Metroid's never been a great selling franchise for Nintendo. However, things could be changing here with Metroid Dread, and we're going to go over that one here today. Also, we're going to be talking about an announcement from Microsoft that could be showing some of their plans going forward as to how they're going to support next-gen games that are specifically designed for the Xbox Series systems on the Xbox One. And we're also going to talk about some more of those Game Builder Garage projects as they keep getting better and better. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure that like button helps out a ton. And if new here to the Spawn Wave channel, make sure you subscribe down below and hit the little notification bell so you keep up to date with all the different uploads that go up on the channel. And we're going to start today with Grand Theft Auto 5 and Grand Theft Auto Online, but on the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 3, as it looks like support will be coming to an end for those platforms later on this year. We can see this over on Twitter, where they say online services for LA Noire and Max Payne 3 and GTA Online on PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 will end by December 16th, 2021. Story mode for all three titles will remain playable. One thing I got out of this tweet is that we need a Max Payne 4, but GTA Online on the PlayStation 3 and the Xbox 360, I do wonder how many people are still playing it on those systems. I guess you can make a case for the PS3 because it's free to play online there, but on the 360, like, you still have to pay to play online. So I feel like a lot of people on the 360 have at least moved up to the Xbox One. Even maybe on the PS3, probably moved up to the PS4 at this point. I mean, it runs so much better on those platforms over like the 360 and the PS3. And I'm sure Rockstar is looking at the numbers and they're just like, there's just not a lot of people that are on those platforms, the PS3 and the 360, continue supporting it. But this is a game it's going to span 3 generations. We're about to see a PlayStation 5 and an Xbox Series patch comes out. So for me, it's like, we just need GTA 6. Also, we had a report out of Bloomberg talking about PlayStation VR 2 and how it is being targeted currently to launch in holiday 2022. We can see this over on VGC, where they say PlayStation VR 2 is reportedly being planned for holiday 2022. A new report claims the headset will use Samsung OLED panels. That's not surprising to hear, considering the current PlayStation VR headset uses OLED panels, and it launching in holiday 2022 also makes sense. We had the original PlayStation VR that we have now that launched October 2016, so about a 6-year difference there, right, for the next generation headset. And I'm going to be very curious to see what software they would launch alongside of it to kind of take advantage of all the extra features. I feel like still Gran Turismo 7 makes the most sense. I mean, it's even being pushed into 2022 seemingly to support the PS4, but they could also be working on maybe a VR mode for that game. Those kind of games, though, where you're not really moving around as much and you're just kind of driving a car, is a bit easier, I would say, to do. But keep Insomniac in mind for this one. They have a lot of experience with VR titles. I could certainly see them creating even a smaller experience around the PlayStation VR 2 to use some of the extra features that they're introducing here. Obviously, bump and resolution, all of that with the screens inside the headset, but they've talked about things like haptic feedback being incorporated into the headset itself. So keep an eye on Insomniac maybe for a launch title for it. Oh, and it looks like we're gonna get some more information around Pokemon Unite today. We can see this posted up on Twitter by the official Pokemon account, where they say, attention trainers, an important Pokemon Unite news update is coming. Check back tomorrow to learn more. So a little Pokemon Unite news there, June 17th. And this is the free-to-play MOBA game with the different Pokemon characters in there, and I'm not as interested in the different MOBA titles. It's for cell phones and it's for the Switch with crossplay and all of this. And I know the Pokemon community is probably looking at this and is very interested in hearing more, so I would just keep an eye out today. It is going to be a free-to-play title, which means they can launch it whenever they want. It doesn't need that marketing run-up of months to get people ready to spend $60 or $70 on something, so they could legitimately release it today, could be a couple weeks from now. I'm kind of thinking it'll be a few weeks from now that they'll launch it. Just keep an eye out today for some news around Pokemon Unite and hopefully a release date. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with Microsoft and the Xbox One and cross-gen support. Now, Microsoft had talked about supporting the Xbox One for at least a couple of years. They said like 2 years or so, and we were thinking, okay, maybe through 2022. But then at E3, they started talking about quite a few games that would only be on the Xbox Series X and Series S with no Xbox One logo popping up, and even Flight Simulator coming up here pretty soon, just being for the Series X and the Series S. So what do we do about the Xbox One? Well, it looks like Microsoft has an interesting idea. In fact, it's one I remember talking about like a couple years ago. This has to do with game streaming. We can actually see this was a quote from Xbox Wire, where they say, "For the millions of people who play on Xbox One consoles today, we are looking forward to sharing more about how we will bring many of these next-gen games, such as Microsoft Flight Simulator, to your console through Xbox Cloud Gaming, just like we do with mobile devices, tablets, and browsers." Now, considering the game doesn't actually run on the device, it runs on a data center somewhere and it's just streamed to your system, why can't they make it work on the Xbox One? If they're gonna make it work for smart TVs and little game sticks and mobile phones, sure, the Xbox One should absolutely be able to take advantage of game streaming. And it's an interesting advantage that Microsoft has over basically Nintendo or Sony, is that they are able to do that with Azure and their cloud streaming that they've been developing for quite a while right now. I mean, if you already have Game Pass Ultimate because you signed up with it on your Xbox One, technically you're able to game stream, which means you'd be able to do something like have Flight Simulator stream to your Xbox One and you play it. Now, obviously, it's better to have a native experience over game streaming, but if you're someone who maybe can't afford to upgrade to the Series X or the Series S right now, or you just can't find one, because that's what I always see people say in the comments, you at least have an option. That's the biggest thing, are options to get you to these games, right? Remember, Microsoft doesn't necessarily care how you get to Game Pass, just that you do, whether it's through a game stick, a TV, or even your old Xbox One VCR system from 2013. I think this is a good idea, and it's an interesting kind of approach to cross-generation support, because it's one they can keep going basically like as long as they want to. It could happen throughout the entirety of the Xbox Series generation. It could happen into the next generation, I'm sure. And you know what's interesting about this whole thing? Depending on how cloud streaming continues to evolve for games, it's possible, as they stand up those Xbox Series systems in their data centers, that you would get not only a better resolution, but a better frame rate out of streaming it on the Xbox One than what the Xbox One is able to provide natively. Now, of course, that also has to do with your internet connection, so you have to keep that in mind, but yeah, I think it's a good way to at least give people an option who are stuck with the Xbox One now, whether it's because they can't find the system, like the Series X, for example, and just give them a way to get to Game Pass and use things like Flight Simulator, and maybe as we go forward, Fable, Forza Horizon 5, and so on. So if you're already subscribed to Game Pass, this actually sounds pretty good, because it at least gets you a way to get to these games without having to go out and buy a Series X or a Series S. Now, they didn't actually say when they would be having this support go live, but they did mention Flight Simulator, and that's coming up pretty soon, although they could just be naming that because that is like a series exclusive game that's technically leaving the Xbox One behind. So we'll kind of keep our eyes out for an update from Microsoft around when we can get some sort of application maybe that drops onto the Xbox One for cloud streaming. Next up, let's talk about Metroid Dread. Now, Metroid's never been a great selling franchise for Nintendo. I think that's one of the reasons people were really concerned when they put that video up talking about Metroid Prime 4 and the development issues, because it kind of sounded like they were about to say that they just canceled it, and the sales figures don't exactly back up what they're doing right now, which has to do with could potentially be a 6-year development cycle because they had to reboot development completely. I mean, take a look at the sales numbers here for the Metroid franchise. The best-selling Metroid game overall is Metroid Prime on the GameCube, and that didn't even touch 3 million units sold. Otherwise, we gotta go back all the way to the original Metroid, and that, again, under 3 million units. In fact, the only Metroid game ever to top 1 million units in Japan was that original Metroid release in 1986. Since then, it's never been able to sell well in Japan or really anywhere else. I mean, how popular is Super Metroid? You hear people talk about it all the time. It wasn't even able to sell 1.5 million copies. In fact, based on what we've heard about Samus Returns, that sold maybe 600,000 copies. Now, to be fair, they released that on the 3DS when everyone was really talking about the Switch. That kind of got left out to dry. And now we're hearing about Metroid Dread. Everyone's really excited about it. There's a lot of talk. And it turns out people are buying it. If we take a look on the Amazon sales charts here, we can see at the top, as expected, as always seems to be the case, there's 2 different gift cards. There's the PlayStation Store gift card, and then there is the $10 Xbox gift card. But at number 3, there's Metroid Dread. In fact, to go back to the next game, you have to go to number 7, and that is, for some reason, Breath of the Wild 2. We still have no idea what that game is, but apparently people are still pre-ordering the box art coming soon edition. From there, though, we have to go to number 9, which is Mario Golf Super Rush, and then number 10, which is The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword HD. So obviously, this is a good start for Metroid Dread, and it's a series that certainly needs it. I think this is going to get that Switch effect where it just does well on the Switch because it's a first-party title from Nintendo on the Switch, but it's something the Metroid franchise really does need. I mean, if this can at least top 3 million units and just become the best-selling Metroid game in the franchise overall, I think it'll work to give Nintendo more confidence behind this series and maybe continue to put more and more money into the series. I don't think Metroid Dread is like the biggest budget in the world or anything. It's a 2D Metroid game, sure, but like you look at Metroid Prime 4, that's gonna cost Nintendo some money. I mean, it's a 6-7 year development cycle, maybe because they had to reboot it. It went to retro, and we'll see. Hopefully that game comes out in 2023. Yeah, so again, this would just be something that would continue to give Nintendo confidence behind the Metroid series. One that I've actually been concerned about. Like, would Nintendo just step away from Metroid if Metroid Prime 4 cannot sell? Well, here's a shot with Metroid Dread. So Metroid fans, I mean, this game so far looks pretty good. So we'll see how it does overall in the sales department. But we also found out what those amiibo will be doing. We can see this over on Nintendo Life, where they say the new Samus figure can be scanned in to give you an extra energy tank to increase your health by 100. After that, you can continue to scan her in once a day to receive health. The Emmy figure works similarly, granting you a Missile Plus tank on its first scan, increasing Samus missile capacity by 10. From there, you can scan it once per day to replenish your missiles. So good news there. Doesn't seem like we're going to have a Skyward Sword amiibo situation. Looks like we're just getting health and missile replenishment with a one-time upgrade. So far, so good for Metroid Dread. We'll see how things go as we work towards October. And then after that, of course, when we get the sales figures specifically in Japan, could this be a good performing Metroid game in Japan? That's the biggest question now. Next up, let's talk about No More Heroes 3, as we did have an extended look at gameplay for this game in the treehouse. It's like 20 minutes or so, and they did like a boss battle. They did some mini games, just kind of giving us an overall idea of the game. And when you first see it, yeah, the game still looks kind of blurry. Now, I want to preface this by saying they themselves mentioned, hey, this is still a fairly early build of the game that they put together for use in the treehouse, so it could still see some polish ahead of its release later on this year, but like still, looking at it, it still has that kind of the effect where we have shimmering around everything, and they did show off some of the motion controls that they said are optional, so you don't have to do the swinging motion or the recharging motion if you don't want to, although that's kind of trademarked to the series at this point. But one other thing I noticed as they were playing through this, there was one very quick part where they were kind of transitioning between different areas, and they opened up like kind of the map part where it'd be an open world, and there were some really bad frame rate drops, like horribly bad. It looked almost like what we had with Deadly Premonition 2, but in this game. Now again, it is an early build of No More Heroes 3, so we'll see what happens when it does come out. I do recommend checking out the gameplay session they had in the treehouse if you missed it. It was good just to see No More Heroes 3 just being played for an extended period of time. And then we had Suda, of course, come in at the end, give a nice little spiel about pre-orders and all of that. But at least from what I'm seeing, it looks interesting, it looks fun, it looks different, which is good for No More Heroes 3. So we'll see what happens when it comes out. I will be picking it up, and I'm sure we'll be talking about it on the podcast then too. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about Game Builder Garage and how I really needed to check this game out. Well, check out games that people are currently making, because we're going through some of the big franchises from Nintendo that people have been asking for, and as I figured, people would just start building them themselves. Like, for example, F-Zero. We can see this was posted up by Zelda Boy saying making progress, and you see them kind of speeding around a track here that they built in Game Builder Garage, even crashing at one point there. But it continues on here with Zelda, but in first person. This is an interesting idea there, even with the controls, and all of these have codes, so if you have the Game Builder Garage game, you can just go ahead and punch the code in and try the project out, like ZL for shield, ZR for sword, and so on. Excite Bike. You can even complete 2 laps without falling in the mud there, as they were doing. So that's pretty interesting, with A and Y as accelerate and B as jump. And then An Earthbound demo. This one has an interesting perspective, kind. I mean, it's sort of 3D, sort of not. But the fact that we are already to this point, and some people have made even like Sonic in this game, like I said, that was really quick. Like, this game has not been out for that long, and people are already building these type of, I'm gonna say tech demos for now, but like, I legitimately think we're gonna get to the point where there's just full-on games. Like, people are making things that Nintendo won't in Nintendo's own game builder garage. So I'm thinking there is value in this, even if you don't want to build anything, because people are creating such interesting projects that you might even want to just follow as we go along. I mean, Twitter seems to be like the biggest place that people are sharing these, but maybe we'll get to a point where there's an entire website set up that you just kind of share projects with like the numbers, and you can go in and check them out there. So I'm going to be grabbing this game and checking out some of these different things that are posted up. Like that Sonic game looked pretty cool, and even F-Zero, because why not? It's F-Zero. And before we go to the comment of the day, we're taking a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I asked, have you played a 2D Metroid game before? 18% of you said yes, I've played all of them so far. 46% said yes, but only one or two, or just a couple of them. And then 37% said no, I've never played a 2D Metroid game before. Well, technically, if you have a Switch, you can play Super Metroid, right? It's right there on Nintendo Switch Online. It's tough because Samus Returns never made it to the Switch. That was just on the 3DS that people had already kind of moved on from. This just tells me Nintendo needs to get the Game Boy Advance games like for the Nintendo Switch Online library like now. Get Fusion at least over, that'll be good. Zero Mission, it's just, a lot of people have missed out on the 2D Metroid games, especially younger gamers who are kind of coming in now. So I would like to see that from Nintendo, but at least right now, Metroid Dread has a lot of excitement and interest in it, but still, being able to play those older Metroid games ahead of Metroid Dread would be really good. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day as you're seeing here. This is from Gur saying, now would be a great time to bully Rare into making Banjo 3E. Well, Rare's a lot different than the Rare that we used to know them as when they were making things like Banjo-Kazooie back in like the N64, even when they moved up to the GameCube. Really, at this point, they all went to Playtonic. So Microsoft, what they should do is just hire Playtonic to make another Banjo game. Rare's already said they don't really mind if other companies or studios work on the IPs that they were originally attached to. I mean, Perfect Dark's being worked on by the Initiative. Rare's busy with Sea of Thieves and I guess someday Everwild, but I think that's the move. If Microsoft goes out, basically gets the original developers of Banjo-Kazooie with Playtonic and make Banjo 3E that way. And ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button, really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here. Today was Metroid Dread. We're starting to see it move up in those sales charts like on Amazon. Do you think this could finally be a big breakout for Metroid and it could move above that 3 million units sold mark? Let me know about that one. And then what about Microsoft's plans to still support the Xbox One, but through game streaming for some of these next-gen only games? And Game Builder Garage, have you had a chance to check out some of these really cool projects? Let me know about that one. Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.